Hello everyone and welcome to G and Q. My name is Q Han, or you can call me Christopher, and this is Ji Hwan. This channel will be explaining the history of Korea. I am the artist and I will explain the Korean history in English, while Ji Hwan will explain it in Korean. If you happen to be Korean, then it might be better if you listen to him. Anyway, let's begin. Once upon a time, probably around the year 2333 BC, there were two gods named Hwanun and Hwanung. Hwanun was the god of the skies, and Hwanung was Hwanun's son. Hwanung always wanted to go to the human world that was below him, so he asked his father, Hwanun, for permission to go to the human world. To this, he simply approved. So Hwanung and 3,000 other gods made their way down to the surface of the earth. Among the 3,000, there were the gods of wind, the gods of rain, and the gods of clouds to help the humans with farming. When Hwanung set foot on the ground, he was surrounded by humans who were happy to see the gods descend from above. So Hwanung helped the humans with food, medication, and helped make fair laws. Then he decided to call this land Shinshi. But one day, a bear and a tiger showed up. Why? Because they wanted to become human. And don't ask me why. They, I guess, just wanted to become human, even though living a bear's or a tiger's life is awesome. Anyway, Hwanung took the request and gave them a ton of these vegetables. What do you think they are? And no, they aren't weed and onions. They are actually mugwort and garlic. If you don't know what a mugwort is, or what a garlic is, then search it up. Basically, mugwort is a type of grass that mostly grows in Korea and is used in some cooking recipes, and garlic is also a vegetable which is mostly used in stuff like garlic bread. Surely you heard of garlic bread before. So anyway, Hwanung then told the two animals that they have to stay in a cave for 100 days only eating these two vegetables. And you must know, they aren't that good. But still the two animals, eager to become human, went into the cave to start their 100 days of complete torture. And 100 days later, only one became human, because one of the animals ran out the cave and quit before completing their 100 days in the cave. And the one that became human was the bear. The bear had transformed into a beautiful woman when it came out. She got the name Ungnya, which meant bear woman. And at the sight of her, Hwanung fell in love. And so, they married each other and gave birth to a son who was named Dangun. And now we finally meet the person who started it all. Dangun is considered the founder of Gojoseon, which is the earliest formal kingdom in the history of Korea. So he is considered as the founder of Korea. Of course, there were people who were living in the Korean peninsula before that since about 700,000 years ago, but they were many different small tribes that left barely any history. And if I were to tell you briefly about them, they were people who were almost like cavemen who lived in either caves or in simple houses of straw and wood called makjip. They went hunting for food with stone tools until they discovered how to farm. This age before farming was a Paleolithic age for Korea. But after these humans started to farm, it transferred into the Neolithic age around 10,000 years ago. In the Neolithic age, people started to settle down and form little tribes mostly by the river or the ocean. Then came the Bronze Age in approximately 2000 BC, where people started to forge and use bronze weapons called lute-shaped bronze daggers, as well as bells and mirrors. They started to farm rice, which helped the people by a lot. But so much rice were left over even after everyone got fed, and this food surplus created wealth, and this wealth had led to greed, which brought war between tribes. And as some tribes became stronger, others allied with one another to protect themselves. And one of these allied tribes became Gojoseon. In the Bronze Age, they also started to build dolmens, which were giant stones stacked on top of each other to commemorate their great leaders. And right after the Bronze Age, we come back to Gojoseon. Now, here's the question. Why did Dangun decide to call this kingdom Gojoseon? And what does Gojoseon mean? Dangun didn't actually call this kingdom Gojoseon. He actually named it Joseon. And for those of you that know some facts about the Korean history, you will remember that Joseon is the name of the dynasty that comes later in the late 14th century. The Joseon people wanted to call their kingdom Joseon again to show that they were descendants of the first Joseon people. So, the historians decided to call the first Joseon Gojoseon, which means ancient Joseon, and the Joseon that comes later, Joseon. Back to the history of Gojoseon. Gojoseon was founded during the Iron Age by Dangun, but unlike the story, Dangun is not an actual person. Dangun were actually more than one person. And no, I don't mean there were 30 people who had the same names with each other. I mean that Dangun is not a name of a person, but of a position. And there could be only one Dangun in the world at a time, since Dangun was considered as the king of Gojoseon. Now let's look at how the Gojoseon people lived. They mostly farmed for food, but also hunted as well. And with some of the animals they had caught, they sacrificed it to the gods once in a while for safety and food. And Gojoseon kept growing with iron that were brought in from China that were used to make better tools for farming and better weapons for hunting. But Gojoseon's growth skyrocketed in 194 BC when a man named Wiman invaded from the north. He defeated the former king, King Jun, and took over Gojoseon. With all the iron he had brought from China, Gojoseon had entered its golden age. Some call this period the Wiman Joseon period, but the Gojoseon kingdom was still standing. But this rapid growth became a threat to China, which was in its Han dynasty. The Chinese decided to attack and take over Gojoseon before it was too late. Find out next time if the Chinese become victorious, or if Gojoseon will hold its place in history.